Oof, is that a controversial title? I admit it is a little bit clickbaity, but today I want to talk to you about why I don't thrift. So I just want to make it clear, I am not anti-thrift at all. These are just some behaviors that I've noticed in myself that I'm trying to sort of step away from. And also just behaviors that I've seen online in things like thrift hauls, and as the popularity of thrifting and shopping secondhand increases, which I think is great in a lot of respects, like environmentally, economically, reducing, reusing, things like that. But in a lot of other ways, I think it's just another form of mindless consumption. There, I said it. So I am in no way saying that thrifting is bad, but I definitely used to use it in this way as an excuse to shop. Because I think thrifting is kind of a gray area when it comes to shopping and consumption, and it can very easily turn into another form of excessive consumption because in many ways it's so easy to do that. Things are often very cheap. You can get a ton of it. Like, these stores are often jam-packed with things if you know how to dig. And speaking from my own experience, it's so easy to just grab just because, either because it's so cheap or it's like kind of cute or it kind of fits, or I can DIY my way into making it work somehow because I don't want to pass up the deal. I remember wandering around these thrift stores and just coming home with a bunch of stuff that I had no idea why I wanted it, but I got such a rush and such excitement. The whole day would just be like, oh, that's so cute, or oh my God, this is such a deal. Oh, I can't pass this up. I can't believe someone got rid of this. For me personally, it just created a whole lot of clutter, and really I just continuously allowed myself to spend money without much thought or much intention. So I feel like if thrifting is approached in a certain way, in a overconsumption and excessive, impulsive way, it can really breed this air of more overbuying, more overspending, and in many ways can become just as much about excess as buying new can be. I mean, thrifting is pretty much as budget friendly as it gets, but there's still a way that you can do it without overspending and by sticking to your own financial plan. So in my experience, whenever I used to go thrifting, it was still just another excuse for me to shop, and I would say my personal thrifting behavior was rather aimless. I would make plans to go thrifting and hop around like flea markets and Kensington Market here in Toronto. I'd spend a lot of time wandering around these shops looking for gems, not really knowing what I was looking for, but looking for something, looking for stuff. And I would sometimes find myself buying things just because I didn't want to be shopping all day and then go home empty-handed. I would buy knickknacks and trinkets that I absolutely didn't need. I bought things because I couldn't pass up the deal. I see a lot of things like thrift hauls here on YouTube where people bring home huge bags full of clothes and stuff, and they do, really fun try-ons, and maybe they spent less than $100 for that whole thing. But I still don't feel necessarily that more for less means better. As popular and as great as thrifting is, I am not shitting on it whatsoever. I still think it can turn into a form of mindless consumption and still perpetuates this sort of haul culture. Now it's like one-of-a-kind stuff because you can't really duplicate what you found at a very niche or rural thrift store. But I think it can perpetuate a lot of wandering and mindless consumption and spending money that you may not necessarily need to be spending on more stuff that you may not necessarily need and that somebody else may actually need. So since I don't thrift, do I shop secondhand? Yes, I do. And do I support shopping secondhand? Absolutely. But here's how I do it with a little bit more intention. The first thing I would do when shopping secondhand or thrifting is to go out making sure I have something in mind. This is why I am such a huge fan of wish lists and writing down what it is that you think you want and that you may want to add to your wardrobe, to your home, whatever it is. Create a wish list and stick to it. And every time you make plans to go out thrifting or shopping secondhand, or even looking online on places like eBay, Depop, Poshmark, Etsy, things like that, stick to your list. I think it's very easy to get distracted by all the deals and all the cute things and all the, oh my God, it's only this, or oh my God, I found a Gucci bag for $20. I can't pass up the deal. If you create a wish list and stick to it, then those little distractions and temptations and all those exciting little bits can become a lot easier to say no to and to resist. My second tip would be to not settle. Wait until you find the thing that you're looking for, unless the alternative that you found is actually better than the original. I think Sina from Use Less recently did a video about this, and she mentioned a very similar tip where she suggests to really not settle and don't compromise on the thing that you're looking for, because ultimately it may end up being a little disappointed, and then you're gonna have to keep looking for it later. It's a little bit of wasted money and you can't really take it back at that point. So if you do have something in mind, be picky, don't settle, and stick to that wish list. My third tip would be to diversify. Use all your resources available to you. Yes, you can shop around within your town or your region and sort of wander around physically, but also consider shopping from other people's closets. I've bought things off of Depop, Poshmark before, and if you have something really specific in mind, places like The Real Real, Etsy, or simply Google what you're looking for and see if you can find more niche and independently owned shops or websites to do your secondhand shopping from. The really nice thing about more curated vintage shops is that they really sort of do the work for you in terms of color, size, measurements, branding. It's a little bit more curated and easier to shop to find exactly what you're looking for. And it's really cool that you can support a small business in that way. So don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with the thrill of the hunt and finding gems that you may not necessarily have even thought that you needed. But I think when we do it in excess and do it rather aimlessly and wandering around, then that's when you kind of put yourself at risk of bringing in more things than you necessarily may need or may even use, and spending a whole lot of money in the process. It may be less money that you're spending versus buying something brand new, but ultimately it still ends up being money that we may not have necessarily needed to spend quite yet. For me personally, when I shop secondhand, I'm looking for something very specific in mind, whether that be a brand, a cut or color of something. And some things are just better bought secondhand, like a pair of really good vintage Levi's or a blazer or a handbag or something like that. I think there's so much value in shopping secondhand and thrifting, but I still think that the same amount of intention and thought and budgeting can be put into this type of shopping. And I mean, if you do want to spend a day thrifting and you just you set yourself a budget and you want to come home with something, I think that's totally cool. But for me, when it becomes more and more about these thrift hauls and just bringing in more things for the sake of it because it was a good deal or because it was a deal that we couldn't pass up, I think that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult to navigate. I think at the end of the day, no matter how you swing it or how you choose to do it, excessive consumption is still excessive consumption, and spending without a plan or intentionality can turn into overspending real quick, no matter how good the deal was. So although I do feel like thrifting and shopping secondhand is a great way and arguably a better way to shop than buying new, I still think that we can do it with the same amount of intentionality that we would give anything else. So let me know, are you guys thrifters? Do you shop secondhand? And how do you keep it intentional? And if you saw some value from this video or enjoyed it, then please give me a thumbs up. It's a really great way you can help support my channel, and I so appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. See you in the next one, guys. Bye.